Hello, everyone. Vanessa Kelman here to share the second book in my Pine Valley series called Between the Moments. So, this is a small town drama, picking up where Searching for Home left off. We're going to read the summary and then take a peek inside. Just a quick disclaimer, the summary has a little bit of a somewhat spoiler with regards to what happens in Searching for Home. So, if you have not read Searching for Home, and plan on doing so, just be advised that the summary gives a little something away. So let's dive in and you can go from there. Welcome back to Pine Valley. A building collapse, a fire, and unexpected news threaten the lives and dreams of Pine Valley's residents. Can one small town overcome the challenges? The diner in Pine Valley isn't just Maggie's anymore, and her story is just beginning. But figuring out how to fill her days is nothing compared to the challenges she's about to face when a fire threatens the diner. Can the business survive? Richard feels more fulfilled than ever, but his family is struggling. His daughter Alyson is confronting demons from the past. His son in law Jonathan is getting lost in his work, and his granddaughter Katie is struggling with what the future might hold. Can they regain the happiness they once had? With his shaky past, Jordan's future has always been uncertain. But now that he's settled in Pine Valley, Jordan finds himself starting to dream again, looking to the future and all that it may hold. Will his dreams survive unexpected challenges? Lots of drama in this one. Let's see what happens. Chapter 1. Katie closed her laptop with a groan. She couldn't even finish her research paper for history class. How on earth was she supposed to write college application essays? Not that she wanted to. She didn't even want to apply. But of course, not applying wasn't an option either. Her grandfather would never let her hear the end of it. With a sigh, Katie pushed away her laptop and took out her phone. She shot off a quick text to her best friend Danny to commiserate, then stood up in search of a snack. Actually, she thought as she glanced out the window, with all of her pent up energy, maybe she should go for a run. Running always helped clear her mind. And on such a beautiful fall day, how could she not prefer to get some fresh air? Her paper could wait. 10 minutes later, Katie was tying up her sneakers. She tucked her cell phone and key into the pockets of her leggings and headed out the door. After a few warm up stretches, she headed down the driveway and toward the center of Pine Valley. Katie's family lived a couple of miles from the center of town. It was a small town, and no one could really live very far from the center. It was a bit of a wheel, with houses radiating out, growing increasingly sparse as they began to intersperse with the forests that surrounded the town. Usually, Katie headed for the outskirts, choosing to run on the trails that wound their way through the trees. But today, she needed distractions. The town was a hubbub of activity, as it often was this time of day. Schools were out, people were starting to leave work, and many people were fitting in errands before heading home to have dinner and wind down for the night. Pine Valley wasn't known for its bustling nightlife. This small town rush hour was about it. Katie waved to several friends and neighbors. She enjoyed knowing just about everyone in town, even if it did make life difficult sometimes. She couldn't imagine moving to a big city. Just thinking about going away to college was intimidating enough. If she was honest with herself, that was one of the reasons she was so reluctant to finish her applications. But never mind, she was here to get her mind off of it, not dwell on it. Deciding that she really could use something to eat, Katie took a lap around the center, then made her way toward the diner. Her grandfather would be working, and he would make her something delicious. As she pushed the door open, a bell jingled, and she was greeted by Jordan, one of the diner's staff members, who was pouring coffee for a customer. Hey, Katie, he called, lifting his free hand in a wave. Jordan was just a couple of years older than she was. He had come to Pine Valley about a year ago, and from what Katie could ascertain, his life hadn't been easy before that. Maggie, who owned the diner with Katie's grandfather Richard, had taken him under her wing and turned his life around. See, Katie couldn't help but think, that's the beauty of a small town. Upon hearing Jordan's call, Katie's grandfather Richard stepped out from the kitchen, a smile on his face. Hello, Katie girl. Wasn't expecting you today. Don't you have a paper to write? Katie rolled her eyes. Yeah, I've got time. It isn't due for a week. All right, then. Katie approached him and gave him a kiss on the cheek. I just went for a run and now I'm starving. What have you got for me today? Richard was a great chef, even if he didn't push himself beyond comfort food. Today, his special was open faced turkey sandwiches, and Katie knew that the turkey would be perfectly seasoned, not dry, with a rich gravy. Her mouth watered in anticipation. When Richard returned to the kitchen, Jordan approached and poured her a glass of water. So, he began, Richard tells me you've started applying to colleges. Yeah, I guess, Katie mumbled. Why was that all anyone wanted to talk about? Where are you thinking of going? Katie shrugged. Haven't decided yet. To be honest, I'd rather not talk about it. Jordan held up both hands in a mock surrender. Hey, no problem. Just making small talk. I didn't even apply to college. You'll get no argument from me. He flashed her a grin. Thanks. Katie smiled back. She liked Jordan. He was sweet and a hard worker, but they didn't seem to have much in common. She wasn't sure what to say now that she had nixed the most popular topic of conversation. Nice weather out today, isn't it? Yeah, fall is my favorite time of year. I love the foliage, even if I am surprised there are so many leaves in a place called Pine Valley. Katie laughed. What? It's foliage, not foliage. That's what I said, foliage. Katie shook her head, a smile still on her lips. It's okay. Don't worry about it. And yes, we have more than pines in Pine Valley. Now, snow, Jordan grinned. I like that too, and I know I'm pronouncing that one right. Katie laughed again. Yeah, you got snow right, and I agree with you. I'm a big fan too. They lapsed into companionable silence as Jordan wiped down counters and Katie played with her phone. Danny had responded with a gripe about her own history paper, but Katie knew it was all talk. Danny never had a problem with writing, and she loved history. Katie appreciated the effort, though. After a few minutes scrolling social media, Katie looked up to see her grandfather entering the dining room, a steaming plate held out for her. Thanks, Gramps. It smells great. Thanks, Katie girl. I tweaked the seasoning on the turkey this time around. I hope you like it. It was popular at lunchtime. I'm sure I'll love it. I was surprised to see you today. I thought you were having dinner with your parents tonight. Nah, they've got some meeting at the school for parents of graduating seniors. Richard lifted one eyebrow. And you weren't supposed to join them? Katie shook her head as she chewed a bite of turkey. Not this time. This one was just for the parents. This tastes great, Gramps. Richard smiled. I'm glad you like it. He raised his head to greet incoming customers. I'd better get back to work. I'll touch base with you before you go. He approached the table to chat with friends, and Katie watched him as she ate her dinner. It was good to see him so upbeat and full of life. Working at this diner, going into partnership with Maggie, had been the best decision for him. Before, he had seemed somewhat lost, unsure how to fill his days. When she was young, he had helped take care of her, but she didn't need babysitting now. It was good he had something else to focus on. Katie smiled to herself. Now all he needed was a girlfriend. Jordan watched Katie as he wiped down counters and refilled drinks. When he had first moved to town, he hadn't paid her any attention, but when Richard started taking on a more active role at the diner, she had come in more and more, and he couldn't help it. She was pretty and nice, and when she smiled, his insides did a little flip. But she was out of his league. She was going places, heading to college in a year and making something of her life. She wouldn't want anything to do with a poor kid from Bridgeport. Jordan had to remind himself that he had come a long way. When he had first come to town, he was a drifter, unsure of where he was going or how he was getting there. He was broke, with no family and no hope. He had actually entered the diner to rob it. But Miss Maggie had seen right through that. She turned his life around. She gave him a hot meal and a job, even paying for a week's stay at a local motel so he would have a place to live until he started getting paid. Now he had a small apartment above a store in town. He was working hard at the diner, learning to cook and help customers. He was trying to put a little money aside. He wasn't just a poor kid anymore. But he had nothing to offer a girl like Katie. Not yet, anyway. Alyson sat at a table in the high school media center, skimming a packet of information that had been handed out in preparation for that evening's meeting. She couldn't even believe that Katie was old enough to be graduating high school. It seemed like just yesterday Katie was in pigtails and Alyson was a sullen, depressed young mother. Of course, that was before Jonathan had come into their lives. My, how things had changed. Jonathan was looking at his own copy of the packet. Why are we here again? To learn about graduation, the college application process, and how to be supportive parents regardless of what our kids decide. And we need to sit here on uncomfortable chairs for an hour for them to tell us that? Alyson shot Jonathan a look, and Jonathan flashed her a smile. He was just about to comment when the school principal asked for everyone's attention. Good evening, everyone. I'm sure you're all anxious to get home, so we will do our best to keep this meeting brief while still giving you the opportunity to ask questions. The packets you received contain general information, important dates, and contact information for the support staff here at the school should you run into any questions or concerns down the line. But we wanted to make sure you had a chance to meet everyone and ask any pressing questions. I know this will be a nerve-wracking year for many of you. She smiled reassuringly. Let's start with our guidance counselor, Ms. Watts. An hour later, as Jonathan had predicted, they were putting on jackets and heading out the door. Alyson had known much of the information presented, as she tended to be a worrywart who researched everything, but it had been nice to get a personal perspective. The guidance counselor in particular seemed friendly and supportive, and Alyson was glad Katie had someone to turn to should she be interested. Truth be told, Alyson worried about Katie. What parent didn't? But there was something else. Alyson, Jonathan, and Richard had always assumed Katie would go to college, live her life, make her choices. But Katie seemed reluctant to even talk about college. She was quick to change the subject when it came up, expressed no interest in visiting any colleges, and didn't seem interested in even discussing what she wanted to do after she graduated high school. Alyson hoped that her own traumatic experiences hadn't affected Katie. She had tried so hard to shield her from that. Katie had been an unwanted pregnancy, the result of a sexual assault. Alyson had been about to start college herself, eager to begin her education to become a doctor. While volunteering at a local hospital, she had been assaulted by a doctor who worked there. Unwilling to give Katie up, Alyson had to admit that, though she had tried, the first few years of Katie's life had been less than happy. Alyson had been trapped in depression, unable to move forward in her own life, unable to even consider pursuing her dream. It wasn't until Jonathan had gotten involved, encouraged Alyson to seek justice and compensation, that Alyson had even felt able to look beyond the present moment. Alyson owed Jonathan everything. The fact that he loved her and she loved him just added to the debt of gratitude she held every day. And surely their lives were happy now. Surely Katie couldn't remember or be tied down by the unhappiness felt when she was a toddler, could she? Or maybe Alyson had been wrong to tell her the truth a few years ago, when Katie started asking questions. She looked nothing like Jonathan, after all, whose complexion was a deep chocolate as opposed to Katie's own pale, freckled skin. Shaking off her worries, Alyson climbed into Jonathan's car and buckled her seatbelt. Maybe she needed a heart to heart with her daughter. She just hoped Katie would open up to her. So there's a little peek into some of the characters we will see in between the moments. If you'd like to pick up where this snippet left off and find out what happens, be sure to pick up Between the Moments, available at many online retailers. And I will see you next time.